Apart from top-notch ministers, we also had a bevy of names, the top corporate names, top policy makers at this Digital India Summit. And EDNA's chief editor news, Supriya Srinath, moderated this plenary session where stakeholders from McKinsey, from Nasscom, the head of BJP's IT cell, top names from Dell, Huawei, really weighed in on their own take of the progress that Digital India has made so far and the initiatives or the gaps that the government has to fill going forward.
Digital India is far beyond digital government. Digital India is far beyond digital government. Digital India, done well, has the potential to transform the lives of India, period. It has the potential to add 20 to 30% of our incremental GDP growth in the next 10 years. To put that in perspective, it's Make in India squared. It is 2.5 times the industry that my dear friend Star Chandrashekar here represents from Nasscom in terms of what the impact it has on India. And I'm so pleased that the government has actually taken this up, because if you wanted to transform lives of India, there is no better way to do it than empowered through technology.
Fair point indeed. No better way to do it than empower through technology. But Arvind, this question is now coming your way because you in some sense represent the ruling benches and it's really your government's initiative and your government's mantra, Digital India. Will you help us understand the progress that have been made so far? We have, of course, seen some really cool apps that has been spoken about earlier this morning about whether it's Swachh Bharat, whether it's mygov.in, whether it's digital lockers. How are you going to essentially assess the progress, assess the success of some of what has been done already?
Yeah, it's a very relevant thing to ask at about a 2-year anniversary, if you may call it, of Digital India, the government, which is probably the first digital government of the country. I think the minister talked about the optical fiber from 400 kilometers to going to about 1 lakh kilometers, 50,000 villages being connected. See, the highways, as I call them, need to be laid out, and they are being laid out at a very, very rapid pace. The cars that will run on those highways, the instruments, already we've seen the investment in the electronic sector from 11,000 crore go up to about 10 times, 1,10,000 crores. 11 crore handsets being made in India. So the prices will come down. And the destinations, which is the third part of Digital India, which is the startup entrepreneurship culture. At last count, I know Ravi and Nasscom we can all keep debating the number of startups in India. I put it at 18,000. Somebody will say 12,000. I think the number of startups have quadrupled, and the outcomes are there.
Success vis-a-vis the challenges, the gaps that still need to be filled. It's very good to have a slogan like that because that is really the blitzkrieg. That's the inflection point, so to say, for a campaign like this. But if I may ask you, what are the challenges that you would want the government to address up front? I mean, 2 years down the line for Digital India, gaps still remain.
Well, first of all, Digital India, I think earlier question was, is it a choice or is it a elitist slogan? And I would argue that if India is coming from behind in a global GDP race, the best way to leapfrog is to use internet technologies, to use digital technologies. And as you start to ramp up, as we start to ramp up, within 10 years, you could be on the global forefront where number 3 GDP in the world, quality of living, sustainability, inclusiveness, and information rich. So to me, it's not a choice. This is the only way leapfrog can happen.
Satyan, because you have the liberty of being a global insider here on this panel, I must ask you this question. The point that Amit made, we no longer have a choice whether we need to digitize or not. It is imperative upon us that we do. Now, if I may talk to you about how do you make Digital India more pervasive, more inclusive? What are the best global practices that India can perhaps pick up from? Because if the digital divide has to be bridged, we perhaps have to pick up from the best in the world. What would you share on that front?
Yeah, I think one of the most interesting things about the digital economy around the world is actually the lack of government involvement to see it happen. I think, despite, these types of efforts are wonderful because it raises attention to what, will probably be one of the largest drivers of our economy in the next 10, 20 years. But if you look at most markets around the world, the primary role of the government has been simply to enable access, and enable access as openly and cost-effectively and affordably as possible.
Mr. Chandrashekar, if I may get you on the same point, like Satyan pointed out, the gaps are very visible and the gaps are obvious. Have you been on track of filling them?
You know, I think we have to recognize that we have a lot going for us, and there may be some gaps, but I don't think that we should necessarily be looking at, you know, what are the best practices or what are the best models globally. I think we can aspire to do much more than that, because we are at a unique point where the power and capability of technology allows us to solve some of the most persistent economic problems that the country has had in radically different ways which have never been done before.
True.
So to my mind, we should be and probably need to be aiming at a very different way of solving those problems and setting the next practices.
So many people believe this holy jam trinity is going to be a big catalyst in this Digital India initiative. Are you somebody, I know you wanted to make it a point, but you want to add to that? Sure.
Yeah. I do have something to share. That's why I give you some signal, because I'm coming from places where, to be honest, like 10 years ago, I think that if you forget your wallet, okay, at home, you probably would go back and get it. Today, how many of you, if you forget your mobile phone, you would go home and get it? I will. Can we raise your hand? I just want to see how many people would actually go home and get it. You see? I think the mobile phone today is a lot more important than my wallet today. India is moving into that direction. I'm glad to see that.
All right, India is moving in the right direction. Amit Jain, if I may ask you this question, is enough being done? I mean, some of the things that were mentioned here by Arvind. Is enough being done to incentivize the digital economy to take off, according to you? I mean, yes, moving with payment banks, moving with niche banks, creating this appetite for plastic money is all very good. But is that enough to rev up the digital economy?
Yes, I think it's not an easy transition. So it will be unfair to say enough is not being done. I think you talked about all the initiatives that the government has taken over the last several years. It's a massive transition to move from a cash economy to a cashless economy. Like 3 to 4 years is a good time frame. You achieve that, that's a very good time frame. So I think we are in that journey. The UPI, the interface that's just coming out, I think is a good step there.
Rahul, you want to comment on that innovation in India is happening, and some of that is very innovative and perhaps groundbreaking, but it's still very, it's not transformational yet, it's transitory in nature.
Well, I would challenge that. I think there's a number of innovation that has happened and is happening in India which are very unique to India. And, think about, I funded a company that produces electricity with a little solar panel for someone living in a slum. And we have lit up about 10,000 homes in Mathura district. And this product, you would have never designed or invented anywhere outside of India. So there are lots of innovations that are happening, but we haven't scaled it to the level where it starts kind of putting a spotlight on it. We are going to see a reverse way of transformation. It's not going to be driven by the supply side, but it's actually opening up the innovation playground for the entrepreneurs and then create that demand side, and that's driving the supply.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow, and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.